I feel like I have this framework of feeling like I'm inferior, and so it's like I love all the information and I understand it, and I can get to a place where I feel a little bit better. And when I'm in my car, and then as soon as I walk into work or almost any place, it's like it's all of a sudden it's just like the tension just starts coming up. And
so when you're by yourself, you feel more valued, and when you're around other people, you feel less valued?
Yes.
Well, you know why? It's because, and you're not alone in this, most everybody you know does this to some extent, but when you are looking to others for how they feel about you, you're always in trouble because they're not as interested in you as you would like them to be. And they're not as often connected to source energy as you'd like them to be either. So you get all kinds of negative feedback, not because there's something wrong with you, but because you're counting on getting positive feedback from a place you can't get positive feedback. So the thing that you've been counting on can't be, and so right away you start feeling a little inferior. Another thing that happens, and we can really feel this happen to you, you want so much, you are an uplifter to the very core of your being, and you want people to be happy when they're around you. And you took it upon yourself to be the factor that makes them feel good. You tried your very best to be the way you thought you needed to be so that they could feel good. And you were pleasing to them a good deal of the time. But you couldn't do enough to maintain their happiness. So you began to feel early on in your life like a failure because they sort of made you feel like you were responsible for their happiness, but you couldn't make them happy, you see. So now you have to give all that up. We say, there's nothing we want more for any of you than to hear you say and really mean it, I don't give a rip what anybody else thinks. I just want to be in connection with who I am, because when you're in connection with who you are, then you're of value to everyone who crosses your path. But if you are not feeling good about who you are in the way your inner being does, then you don't have anything to give the others anyway, you see. For example, let's say that you get out of your car and you walk into your place of work. Now give us a description of what you meant, how right away you feel less good than you did. What do you mean? What happens?
Let's see, well, my office mate, she's a really dynamic person that everybody really likes and looks up to, but she has a real strong, very controlling kind of personality, and it's not in a bad way. I don't think anybody looks at it as a bad way. But even in her recognizing that I'm much more of a submissive personality, and she tries not to abuse that, so to speak, she gets on a roll with what she does and how she is, and I immediately am just, wanting to kind of do whatever I can do to help her or to answer her questions because she's more new to the job.
Well, let us give you something. This is a very normal thing. In other words, if you're dancing with someone, it's nice that one of you chooses to lead. Because if you're both leading, it could be sort of a competition about what you're going to do next. And so there's nothing wrong with dancing with someone. And the thing that we're wanting you to hear is you're learning to dance with people. You're not trying to prove your worthiness. You're not in competition with any of them. You're trying to find ways that the best of who you are can co-create together, you see. And sometimes we think that what happens with you is that you feel competition because you're trying to prove your worthiness through your action or through your energy or through your mind. And there's no worthiness to prove, you see. So next time you find yourself feeling a little less than because your office mate is performing so powerfully, appreciate her and feel yourself return to your fullness. Appreciate her and appreciate yourself and notice the rhythm that the two of you have got going. And in that deliberate focusing of your own thought, you'll align with who you are and you will return to your power. And as you return to your power, things will occur to you that have never occurred to you before. And timing of things you say will happen in a way that has never happened before. And she, who is an appreciator too, will look at you and say, what has come over you? And you say, maybe I'm growing up to be just like you. In other words, I've been watching how wonderful you are and maybe you're rubbing off on me a little bit. And then take that opportunity to blush a little more all over her. I've loved working with you, and it's really fun watching how good you are at so many things. And when I grow up, I'm going to be just like you. Flatter her with those words that you don't really mean all completely. In other words, you have your place, and it's an important place. And we can feel that in your statement to us, you're wanting, you know that. You're wanting to say, I want to know the importance of my place, even though it's different than the importance of someone else's place. And no one's in competition for which is the most important place, you see. But all of you, you've sort of had that competition trained into you. And we think it's because instead of being aware of the vibrational relationship between where you are and who you really are, tending to how you feel, you've been using so many outside factors to determine the appropriateness of your action that sometimes you've lost your place along the way. And anyone who feels competition with anyone is someone who certainly has lost their place in that, because you, from your non-physical state of being, know that there is no competition. You know that the resources are infinite, and that your environment will produce your new desire, and that the infinite resources that are expanding because of your new desire will flow forth to assist you. There is no competition whatsoever. You're not in competition for God's love. You're not in competition for worthiness. You're not in competition for resources. You're not in competition for clarity. You're not in competition for anything. And when you get that, then you start wanting to praise everybody who's thriving in anything. And when you start praising those who are thriving here and thriving here and thriving here and thriving here, the experience of your praising and the subsequent alignment of energy that brings you will make you thrive in the things that you are praising, you see. Look for success wherever you see it and be vociferous about it. Be enthusiastically vociferous about it. Talk about what's going well. Talk it all up. Compliment everywhere you go, and watch what begins to happen to your sensation of power.
I think that leads to the other part, is how to find my passion, or how to have a passion, or to be enthusiastic.
Anti-passion is thinking about what I want and thinking about its opposite, and thinking about what I want and thinking about its opposite. So, my office mate certainly is efficient, but I'm not. My office mate certainly has a dynamic personality, but I don't. In other words, it's the opposite thought that's slow the passion down. But when you say, I like the way she does that, and I like the way people respond to her, and I like the way she made me feel in that comment, and I like what she gets done, and I like the feeling that she seems to feel. In other words, as you just play up what seems to be working and play down anything that doesn't feel good, your passion will return on every subject that you put your attention upon. Yes.
Thank you.
Law of attraction is your best friend. Law of attraction amplifies whatever you're giving your attention to, wanted or unwanted. And the more you give your attention to what you want, the better you feel. The more you give your attention to what you don't want, the worse you feel. So law of attraction is your friend in that it keeps amping up whatever you're focused upon. And now you're sensitive to the way you feel. Now your journey's quantifiable. If it's not feeling good, please return to the highlighted route.
I'm wondering about if I'm over here and try to consistently stay there, and the law of attraction that I live with someone who's here. Wonderful relationship most of the time. This morning, say 12:30, my husband becomes very ill. So I spent like 2 or 3 hours, because I had to get up at 5:30. Should I stay with him when he's very ill, even though I can't do anything? When I say very ill, he had an accident a few years ago and goes into fear because he's had some operations dealing with it. So every time we have an unexplained pain, it's all the way to the bottom. So I decided to be selfish and come, because I've been looking forward to it. Written my list of questions. Many of them have been answered. But I need to know how to get this out of my crawl. Anger, I think, is some of it.
Well, we think anger is a better choice than guilt, don't you?
Well, I went through guilt about 1:30, and then I went through martyrdom. You know, my mother would have stayed. I actually married my mother, in many ways.
Most everybody does.
So I decided...
Because you're looking for a way to replace that security that went away when you left your mother.
I guess.
Yes.
A strong man. And as I said, sort of manic, things are fabulous, and then things can just go the cork doesn't float. I know so much of what you've taught me, and that gets thrown in my face to some degree. So somewhere I have, I need to know how to.
Here's the thing, there's really no magic formula. Now, we can give you some things here, and we will, that we would say to ourselves to make ourselves feel better. You did that just now. We think you did a good job. You said, whether I stay or whether I go, the condition and the feeling response of my husband is going to be about the same.
Right.
And then you say, and if this is about something else, if this is about him subconsciously, unconsciously wanting me to stay, and so coming up with a crisis in order to motivate me to stay, or if this is his way of testing me to see which is more important to him, my moving into my own empowerment or my staying and doing what he needs to do, then all of that is sort of uncomfortable. And everyone puts themselves in a position from time to time where you have to make a choice between whether you are satisfying something you want or whether you're satisfying something that someone else wants. And very often your parents or your mates or even your children will do a sort of number on you where they say to you, you don't care about me. And we think that it would be a really good thing for you to just get this out in the open with everybody in your life right away and say, if they ever confront you with that, you don't care as much about me as you do about you, we would say, you know what, you're right. You nailed that one right on the head. And then say, right back at you. Then say, you wouldn't be saying that to me right now if that were not true of you. And then say, we're all wired selfishly because we can only see through the eyes of self. And the only guidance, the only way we can measure where we are, between where we are and any place we want to go, is by paying attention, detailed attention, to the way we feel. So, yes, you're right. I do care very much about the way I feel. But it doesn't mean that I don't care about the way you feel. I care about the way I feel so that I have something that I can give to you. If I don't take care of my own connection, then I don't have anything to give to you. So if I were to yield to something that you're saying you want from me, and I try to make your life better by denying myself something that I've been planning to do for a long, long time, then I am but a shadow of who I really am here wallowing with you. And the phrase misery loves company takes on a whole new meaning at a whole deeper level. And then say, would you really rather me being here, not helping you, but resenting you and feeling bad, although I'll work to feel good anyway? Or would you rather that I get out and get refreshed and then come back where we can be of value to one another, you see? And we think most reasonable people would understand that. But you know what? Someone in pain is not usually a reasonable person. So now, that brings us around to the most important part of this dialogue. Can you have a reasonable discussion with somebody who has no ability to reason in the moment? No, you can't. So why do you keep trying? In other words, if you're vibrating here and they're vibrating here, they can't hear you and you can't hear them. And the only way that you can hear each other is they've got to come up here with you or you've got to go down there with them. And we think this is what's really troubling you. It's not just about today. What's bothering you is you're afraid that you're moving on without the one you love because you can't drag him up the emotional scale and you're not willing to go down there and have that misery loves company thing going on. But here's what you do about it. You hold him or anyone as your object of attention while you're feeling good. When you have the strength to go to a place where you feel better, where you can make a list of positive aspects instead of being mad at him or feeling guilty or feeling martyr or feeling angry. Once you've practiced those good feelings about him, which come really easily to you, so that that's only or mostly what's active within you, what happens is you become the dominant force in the relationship, and then he begins to resonate with what you're talking about. It's not important that he ever come to an Abraham gathering. It's not important that he even understands what goes on in an Abraham gathering. It's only important that you give yourself license to feel good and not feel guilty about feeling good. And there are so many people who have been taught to feel guilty about feeling good. And those well-meaning people will say to you, don't you dare be selfish. And what they mean every time is, don't be selfish and do what makes you feel better. Be unselfish and do what makes me selfishly feel better.